Hello and thank you for joining me. In this video we are cooking steaks with a really delicious red wine sauce based on an easy recipe courtesy of certified master chef Jacques Pepin in celebration of his 90th birthday. One of the things that I love about Jacques Pepin is that his skill level is top tier, one of the best to ever do it, but he knows how to keep things simple, and this dish, which could stand up to any bistro steak around, is no exception. There is a time and a place for sous videing and demi-glace and bento charcoal, but there is also a lot to be said for a steak skillfully seared the old-fashioned way with a simple chicken stock reduction, and that is what we are after today. We will prep our steaks, build our sauce, then cook our steaks, rest, and plate. So the steaks in question today are strip steaks, also often called New York strip steaks, though there are many other common names as well, as is often the case with cuts of beef, but I'll just be calling them strip steaks throughout the video. You can certainly buy them already cut and ready to go, but I really love a bargain, and one great way to get a bargain is to start with a larger piece of meat and to portion it yourself. So when I saw this whole strip loin on sale at the grocery store, I just had to go for it. It's something you should consider if you have the chance. Even if you aren't used to doing much butchering, this cut is not all that complicated. There are no bones to worry about, so you basically just take off some of the excess fat and silver skin, and then portion the steaks as evenly as possible. So just give it a shot. To quote Jacques, it's not like you will go to jail or something if you make a mistake while cooking. So I just get that strip loin out of the bag, and I get a good look at what I'm working with here. I will start by taking off some of the excess fat off the outside of the cut. If you don't feel comfortable cutting like this, you can also portion the steaks first and then trim the fat afterwards. Here I'm just going for the thickest spots. We still want to have some fat on, and ultimately it is all personal preference. You could leave all the fat or remove it entirely. And I can see at the end of the loin there's a little excess flap of fat, so I just trimmed that off to even it up a bit. Then I went around and found a patch of silver skin. This is basically connective tissue that's really tough and won't be any less tough after cooking, so I just want to remove that, and don't stress if it takes you a couple passes with the knife. If there is ever any confusion about what is fat and what is silver skin, remember that fat will be matte white color and have a compact clay kind of texture, whereas silver skin and other connective tissue will be more gray colored and have a stringy, squidgy texture. But now I'm basically there. As you can see, I didn't remove a crazy amount of fat, but all the outside edges of the cuts are looking mostly clean, and so now it's time to portion. And some people go by weight and others by thickness, but today I'm using my scale and I'm trying to get 300 gram steaks, or 10.5 ounces for my fellow Yanks. And for this piece of meat that we started with, a 300 gram steak is actually a decent thickness. And allowing for a small margin of error and flexibility, we were able to get 8 nice steaks out of this one cut. Not bad at all. It should be noted that there are more advanced ways to portion a strip loin that you can check out online, but this is the most basic. And a final note on these steaks, this is a pretty basic quality level of beef, but there are things you can do to make it a bit nicer. For instance, I put my steaks on a wire rack and let them air dry in the fridge for a day or two. This amateur dry aging won't bring big flavor, but allowing your steaks to air dry a bit will certainly help make sure you get a good sear, as moisture is the enemy in the game of searing. You can also try doing a dry brine. All that means is seasoning your steaks with salt and allowing them to rest for up to 24 hours before cooking. This helps season them throughout, and it can help bring a bit of extra tenderness. And so getting to the actual cooking, the original recipe calls for 4 steaks, but we have 1 pescatarian for dinner tonight, so I'm just cooking 3. More sauce for the rest of us. And for that sauce, the prep work is pretty simple. I just need to dice a couple shallots, and the recipe calls for 4 large mushrooms, but I had these beach mushrooms that I needed to use up, so I'm opting for them. I think Jacques would allow for such a substitution. And I also need to chop a couple cloves of garlic. And that is all for the knife work. As for the other ingredients, this is a wine merchant steak, or à la française, beef steak marchand de vin. So we need some red wine, 1 cup. The recipe suggests something fruity and dry, such as a Beaujolais, but no matter what, just make sure it's something that you would drink yourself and not some strange cooking wine. And we also need a cup of chicken stock, which might sound odd in a beef recipe, but let it be known that a good quality chicken stock can accomplish many things. And so let's build our sauce. The original recipe has you sear the steaks first and then build the sauce and the drippings, but to make my life a little easier for the dinner party, I opted to make the sauce first. I have a small pot here and I'm adding a couple spoons of aged beef fat, but alternatively you could use a bit of butter. With the beef fat hot, I add my shallots and saute for a mere 10 seconds or so. Then it goes in with the mushrooms and garlic, and we are sauteing that for another minute. Now we add the wine to the pot. Bring that up to a boil and let it go until it has reduced down to 2 tablespoons, which will look quite thick and syrupy. Now we can add the chicken stock, bring it back to a boil and reduce slightly. We want it to go down to 3/4 of a cup, about 180 milliliters. This is simple cooking, so don't feel like you have to keep pouring the sauce out into a measuring cup to check the volume. Just taste and see if it needs a bit more strength. With the sauce reduced slightly, I finish it with 1 tablespoon of Worcestershire, 1 tablespoon of Dijon, 1 tablespoon of butter, and a half a teaspoon of potato starch that has been dissolved in a small amount of water. The mustard and the starch give the sauce a really nice viscosity. At this point, I will also add a splash of the raw wine as it gives some freshness, a common Pepin move when cooking with wine. And with our sauce done, we can turn our attention to the steaks. Off camera, I just seasoned them simply with salt and pepper on both sides. Then I got out my nice heavy skillet and I put it over medium-high heat. If you want a good sear, you can't hold back on heat. Just turn the kitchen fan on and take the battery out of the smoke detector for a few minutes. So I just have a little bit of neutral oil in the pan and I add the steaks fat cap side down. I just want to render out that fat a little bit. This is optional. After about 30 to 40 seconds, you can see that we have a nice golden brown color on the edge there. Now we can turn the steaks flat to sear them. And you might have to adjust the heat a bit. It looked like mine were not taking color fast enough, so I bumped up the heat a bit, and I give them a turn every 30 to 40 seconds until we get that beautiful sear all over. Grand total is about 4 minutes of total cooking time. We are aiming for medium rare, and how you test that is up to you. Some people do the poke test, others use a thermometer, but for me I use a cake tester, which is very common in the restaurant world. What you do is you stick the cake tester in the middle of the cooked steak, leave it for a couple seconds, take it out and hold it just under your lip. And how warm the metal is tells you how cooked the steak is. A blue steak will still be a bit cool. Rare, you don't really feel much because it is close to body surface temperature. Medium rare feels slightly warm, medium, properly warm, medium well, quite warm, and if it feels hot, congrats, it's well done. I have the temperature almost to where I want, but to finish them off, I want to do another little restaurant move, and that is to throw in some butter, garlic, and herbs and baste those steaks all over with that wonderfully aromatic fat. It's optional, but it adds some extra flavor, and it looks great on camera. With our steaks cooked, we just want to let them rest for a few minutes. This should be done anytime you cook any meat really. Whether it's a roast or a steak, resting allows the proteins to relax as they have just been stressed out by a very hot pan. It also allows the juices to settle, so when resting you end up with a juicier and more tender steak. And while those steaks rest, we can take advantage of all those great brown bits that are left in the pan. Just pour out the excess fat and add a splash of that same red wine we used earlier. Let it reduce just a bit, and all that goes into our sauce pot. So good. And now we've done it. All there is left to do is slice our steak, and plate it up. As for sides, that is up to you, but I went with crowd favorites and did duck fat roasted potatoes and sauteed spinach. And with everything on the plate, the last thing to do is spoon on some of that lovely sauce, and maybe leave the rest on the table for those who want a bit more. Bon appetit! Thank you for joining me. I hope you enjoyed this look at a great and ultimately simple steak dish. I feel Jacques Pepin's recipe really showcases the soul of French cooking. Good ingredients with well-executed technique can go a long way in making something super delicious. If you enjoyed, please make sure to hit the like button and subscribe as well. I have a lot more videos like this one and plenty more on the way, and I've been enjoying revisiting my Essential Pepin book, so you can count on some more videos coming out featuring his recipes. And make sure to comment so the pressure isn't always on Zippy to get the conversation going. Stay tuned, and until next time, cheers and happy cooking.